Let's talk user invites. Typically, there's a few scenarios that might be used for when someone is inviting someone else to an app. Example number one, a tool like Google Tag Manager or some other tool where you want to invite someone into the software or the platform to be able to do things on behalf of you or behalf of your team or get access to some stuff. And another scenario is where you might have an app where you're trying to make it a little bit, give it some virality, making it more viral, and you might be offering free things like Dropbox does, where they give people a bonus for referring friends. If you stick around, those are two scenarios we're going to look at. So these two scenarios we're going to look at is one, a very, very common one is some kind of tool out there. So you're inviting someone into your app, whether your app is the tool, probably, right, or some aspect of it that people are getting access to be able to get some things or accomplish some things on behalf of one user or another, those types of things. So here's a great example of a tool called Google Tag Manager. It's one of those analytic tools that helps manage website tags from Google. And let's take a look at their particular setup for managing users. Or inviting users rather. I'm going to click this and we're going to see, this is basically, we have an email address, we assign a role, and then we hit invite. That's it. So we can see that our setup is very similar. The email, we'll do a user type, and then we'll send the invite. The second scenario is the type of invite to the app where you're encouraging the users of the app to invite other users so that the user base can grow, and you're usually giving some kind of incentive. So for example, here is a famous one in the world of growth hacking from the folks over at Dropbox. They have been doing this for years and years and years, where they give away space in their system, so some kind of special ability within your app that your users can gain more of if they share it with others, and basically aka invite other users into the app. So those are the two scenarios we're going to be looking at. Why don't we go ahead and just kick it off with this scenario of sending an invitation, having someone join to get access to something in the app, and that's basically it. So is how we're going to kick things off. So first and foremost, we're going to go look at this data, and we're going to create a data type called, and I'm just giving these some labels for organization, but we're going to call this pending invite. And we'll go ahead and create that. And so some stuff we'll have on here is we'll go ahead and we'll track the email that's put in there. We're going to say, have they accepted the invite? So for example, you might be in a situation, I'm going to cover as many different scenarios as I can in this, so take what you will from this. For example, so I'm going to use this accepted invite as basically yes or no if it has been accepted. And I want to also do a thing here for the user. This is different than an email, and I'll show how in a second, because imagine a scenario where you actually had stuff in your app and there was somebody else in the app who was using it, and they're like inviting that person to it. So like for example, I have a Google account, I'm inviting somebody else out there who already has a Google account, and they're just getting to see my stuff. So it's going to work. We're going to set up a data type that's going to work in both cases, where if the person already is on the platform, on your app, or if they're coming brand new. And we're going to go and do it like that. And then so there will be one more field here, and for this one we'll just say user type. So in this case I'm going to do it as a text, but I'm going to trust that in your world, if you had an option set for this or something, you would be setting that up. There's a lot of these particulars that I won't go into, and I'll just allow this tutorial to serve as a base from which you can branch off with creativity towards the specific implementation that you have. So that should be enough to get us going. So for accepted invite, that will happen when the person, if they have an account, here's what we're going to do. If they have an account in the system, like this example that I was giving here, they're going to accept, they're going to click a link, and they're going to come in and be like, yes, I will join the amazing app, and this is a page that would be for that. And then there's also the scenario where they would go to a traditional looking sign in, login kind of page if they don't already have an account on the app. So let's start out by looking briefly at this UI, and just if you want to get an idea of something that you could build for yourself, and kind of just, we'll see how it's set up basically. So we have this group invite that kind of surrounds everything, just floating out here on the page. And the main thing that I want to show off is the 3 groups that basically we've got, in this case, a kind of heading thing for my team, but you might not have that. This special table header that has a conditional on it where if the current sales index is not 1, then we'll have it be disappeared. So that way we have a table with the stuff in it, but only on the first row or cell. And then we have a table body, and this table body is taking the user content and passing it down. And oh yeah, we're just looking for the users that I've kind of already pre-set up some stuff to have it show a user who's an admin, and that's basically it so far. So what else is going on in here? We have 3 pieces of content across here, and well, 4 actually, but the far right one, this group user, this is actually broken into, so this I'm calling 1, and since these are smaller pieces of data for the type and the status versus someone's email or their name and picture, these are wider ones. This is 1/3, this is 1/3, and this is 1/3 for this, is how it's broken up. And then let's see what we have for this repeating group for the layout. This 230 is what's making it look like there's all this extra space in here, which I think is a nice way to lay it out. You kind of want something that just looks normal, whether there's stuff in it or not. And then it certainly could expand out further, or you could have a scroll bar and let people scroll down. In the invite control button group here, we just have a simple input, a drop down that has admin and manager. You probably want the actual option sets from your various user types if you were going this route of doing user types, or again, if you're doing more of the Dropbox like viral user invite, then you probably wouldn't even use something like this. And then we have the send invitation button, which is where we'll go and add workflows to. And speaking of workflows, let's go ahead and wire this up. There's 2 things I want to keep in mind here is 1, the users who have an account and the ones who don't. So I'm going to go ahead and start with my conditional there, where let's go and look at what this one is called. This is called the input user. Well, it's the only input on the page. So we'll just go for input. So when it's value, nope, actually, let's do a search for all the users. And then do a search for users, contains each item's email, contains that value. So if it contains it, it means they're already in the system, which again, this might not apply, but I'm going to give the different context for each of them as I narrate throughout this. And then obviously if it doesn't contain. So let's stick with the scenario where it doesn't contain for starters, because I think this would cover the more holistic potential, because it also covers this one here where there's no one, the person isn't in Dropbox and they can't get the bonus unless you invite a new user, is what's happening there. So let's go ahead and create a new thing. And the thing we're going to create is a Z pending invite. And from this Z pending invite, we're going to, let's just set all the fields actually. And so we're going to say no. We're going to say email as the input. And we'll leave that blank for now. And then there's a drop down and we'll just put in that value for that. But then on this other one, what we'll do is we will actually do the user. And this user equals, let's see if we can use part of this. Nope. So where the email, so completely went the long way around the block. So we're going to search for users, and we're just going to grab the first item for the user that their email matches this. So they're already in the system. Okay, and then so the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and just send an email. And we'll send this to that person. And then just some templated text here. So you've been invited to join this app, and we'll include this ID. So we're actually going to take the result of step 1 and we'll include that unique ID to send. So this invite, I know some people might be looking at this data structure that's given here, and you might have had other ideas for it. And one of those other ideas could include that on the user record themselves, that why create this data type and then send them an email? Why not just go ahead and sign them up? Well, actually, in this case, they already are signed up. But if we took, specifically speaking of the case where, for example, we're wanting to refer someone over here, we're inviting them to our app. Why don't we just go ahead and, once they've been referred or invited, we go ahead and create an account for them, and then on their field, we put a field on their account where if they've accepted the invite or not, means they've gotten an email, they've come to the page, and then they do a password reset basically on an account that they haven't logged into yet. And then at that point, we could just mark a field having accepted it, yes or no. And that is certainly a viable way to do it. So I just wanted to point that out because I know there's multiple ways to accomplish the same thing in Bubble. So to plug back into what we have going on here is, so far we have an email that's going to be sent out, and it's going to invite someone to join. And we'll just say that this is from the team. Cool. And updated on this other one as well. Okay, so we're tracking here that this is a brand new user, and they are going to receive an email, but we also want to just go ahead and do a little bit of reset inputs here. And here as well. And then the other thing is that either on this invite page, we either create a second page where we have a form where they can sign up, or we use this page and then we basically look at the value of that ID that we passed in here. And so I'm just going to go ahead and go with that. So that means over on this page, what I want to do is simply add some fields. And so I'm going to drop some pre-made inputs onto the page, and I'm going to come back to that to get the spacing correct, but based upon a little bit of input data. And what I mean by input data is the data that's going to come over from the idea of that pending invite data type that we created back over when the invite is first sent. So when the page is loaded, what I want to do is I'm going to set a custom state, and it's going to be one of these it's going to be the Z pending invite. And what it's going to be is I'm going to do a search for a Z pending invite where the unique ID is equal to get URL. So what I'm doing in here, what this expression is that there's going to be this data from the page URL. So I'll tie this together in 1 second for anyone who maybe perhaps hasn't done this before, but so you'll get to see this right now. So this invite ID here is, if I head back over to here to this email, this is this invite ID. And so the result of step 1, this pending invite that was created, we're going to grab its unique ID and we're going to pass that over in the email. So when someone clicks it and they come back over here, we're going to go and look in our system for that particular pending invite based upon what's in the URL. So once we have that, we'll just take the first item because it's a list of 1, and now we have that set. And so remember what's inside of one of these pending invite things? Well, there's 4 pieces of data, and those 4 pieces of data are whether it's been accepted or not, this email, the user type, which will always have all 3, and then the only one where we don't know if there's something or not is this one. And so we can basically use if it has something or not as a conditional to do some stuff with. So this user one, we're going to say that when this user is empty, then we'll have this element be visible. Otherwise, we won't have it. And then we're also going to make this a conditional. So when this is empty, we're going to make the top margin a value of 0. And so then we can move this one up here. And if this had a 0 for its margin, so this is what it'll look like. Welcome, you've been invited to join the app. If they do not have an account, and if they do have an account, then this is what it'll look like. Cool. Okay, so let's go and now set up the workflows for our different scenarios. And why don't I just go ahead and grab this conditional quick though, because we're going to have 2 of these scenarios where there's the case where there is a user and there is not. So is not empty. So is not empty means there is something, and is empty means we're signing the user up for the first time, which in all likelihood, especially for this viral scenario, if we focus on this one for a second, let's just take this one, tunnel vision on it, and then we'll come back to the other one. So we're living in a world where the person who is being invited to the app is, brand new. So we're going to have them sign up. And so on the page here, they'll be walking through this scenario. And why don't we go ahead and just get these in the right order? Perfect. Okay, so they'll enter their email, which I want to go ahead and put some initial content here. Pending user invites, email, because we actually already have that email. And if you notice on here, I actually had this thing selected for this input is disabled, meaning when someone gets invited to this, we're only going to allow them to use the email that invited them, because this email that is this one is also the one that it was sent to them here. That's this original email value. So whatever email address we sent the stuff to, if someone is clicking out of their inbox and over to our world, then we only want them to be using that one to sign up. That's just a kind of a, route that I'm taking for this. So then they do all this stuff where they sign up, they enter a password combination. We added some workflows here. So this is where that one is empty. So we're going to go and we're going to sign the user up. And our email will be this one. We'll have a password confirmation. Let's see what this is called. Confirmation. Okay. So here we have signed the user up, and let's go ahead and change a field for them. One thing that I'd like to do is that I would like for users, and we'll have to go back over to our data types here. And so on the actual user record, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a field for and this is going to be one of these. And so imagine this, imagine over in Google's world, I have a Google account, but then 4 different people invite me to their stuff. And in order for that data to work, this is a particular scenario that I'm speaking to, and we did jump out of the one for this. So I'm going to make multiple of these, because then depending on if 4 different people invited me, then there's 4 different pending invites. And there's basically, if I've accepted 3 out of the 4, we want the thing that's been accepted to exist on this pending invite data, and we don't want it to be, for example, just like a yes or no field on the user record or not. So again, we have multiple implementations here. I'm showing off various options, and again, and the reason why I'm going with this route of this extra one is because it works for all of the different implementations. So I think it's a little bit more of a robust and flexible way to go about it than just having like a yes no field, and setting that here as if this was yes or no. So we're going to take this pending invite and we're actually going to add to it from this one. So we can now associate these. And then we'll go ahead and we'll make a change to a thing. And we will change this pending invite. And the invite accepted will say to yes. So one of the things that we do want to add to this is that the person who made the invite, which is going to be captured as the person who was the current user. So that's going to be on this particular pending invite. There's going to be the email or the user of the person that was invited, and then the creator is going to be set as the current user. So we can just go and refer to that creator and give them credit for inviting someone, which kind of close the loop on who gets what in terms of, and it's kind of it's kind of referral-ish. It's almost like a referral program as well. Is how this is shaping up to be, but there would be more layers that would get involved for something like that as well. But what we'll do actually for this data type then is we'll head over here and we'll just go ahead and create a new field. We'll call it Z invite bonuses. And so there's a number of ways one could track this. I'm just going to go with users. And we're just going to say that, like, here's the list of users that this person has invited. We could also be giving this person, 50 bonus points or something like that. And that's just a numeric value. And as their bonus points rise, so for example, this is just a numeric value. Okay, this person now has 500 more megabytes of storage in the system that could be granted to them just by changing a field. But so I'm just going to call it this, which will be a list of users, and we'll then make a change to a user. Where this person's unique ID is equal to our Z invites creators unique ID. So this is linking it back and closing the loop so that this person who did this version of the implementation, they sent it out to someone. That person came over. They received this email that said, "Hey, go and join this stuff." Cool. They went over. They went through this. They joined it, which we'll see. We'll see this actually all live in just a moment. Once we wrap this up, but I'm just pointing out the workflows that will, we want to look at both sides of it. What's the stuff in the workflows, and then what's the stuff out there actually live that we can test, and those two should always match, ideally. And if they do, that means it's time to celebrate. So what we've got here is this has closed the loop for this person who made the invite, and then maybe we want to just navigate this person, to some page, to this Midjourney page where they can go and happily generate some images using the connection between Bubble and Midjourney. So if you haven't seen that video, shameless plug for go to check that one out here on the channel. Cool. So let's now remove our blinders. We've gone down the road, the road of what it would look like for someone to sign up. But now we're also considering the world where someone is already in the account. We sent them an invitation of like, hey, these people can now access our stuff. And we're going to consider that workflow here. So that is going to be this one. And instead of signing the user up, they're actually already signed up. So in this case, we can just go and change that pending invite to yes. Oh yeah, I forgot to change it for this creator. If someone was shouting that out, like, what are you doing? So this invite bonuses, we're going to add, cool. I do also want to add this user because they have just signed up. So this means that this pending invite is tied to this current user. Okay, so back to our story on this one, where the person was already in the world. of the Bubble account or the world of Google, and they're being invited into this to see some stuff in this particular app or this particular person's world inside of your app. And the only thing really that we need to do is navigate them, because they're already in the app. They accepted it, which just means that we turn their invite to yes, and then that's basically it. Back over on this page, I just want to make sure that for whoever that was, okay, so I do want to, when it does contain it, and we do have it, we actually want to, for that user, we want to make changes to, we're going to do a search for a user where their email equals the inputs value. And we're going to just go ahead and add a pending invite here. So that way this is tied to that user that's already in our system. They have an invite that's sitting out there pending with them. And the only thing that this is waiting on to show up in a UI like this to show the invite status is it's just waiting on that invite, that person's invite status to change to yes. So for our last thing to do then is basically we're going to update the UI for this, and we're going to look for the scenario where, first off, I want to just show off again this data for this, is that we're searching for users, and then in this table body we pass that data down, and then over on this group user for these two texts we're also passing the data down to there. And so that over in this status, we actually have this available to us as parent groups users. And because we've tied all this data together, we can look at their pending invite. And it's really only going to be, yep, the first item's invite accepted. When that one is yes, we're going to change this to accepted. And then when this one is no, we'll just change this to invite sent. Okay, cool. And there's one last thing I do want to point out here for this repeating group. We're going to just go ahead and copy and paste that, and we're going to change this one to this Z pending invites. And we're going to search for all the Z pending invites. And we're just going to have that come back and show them, but we actually want all the ones where the invite accepted is equal to no. Let's get this one here. And it's just going to sit in there right next to it, and it's going to be basically doing the same stuff, except that the data that we're going to pull here inside of it is going to be this. Cool. Okay, so when I send this invitation, what it's actually going to do is add this person to this one. And now we'll make our invite. Okay, so we can see that that invite has been sent. And now let's go and respond to it. Okay, and so I've got that email here, and I want to point out two things. Is one, you'll obviously want to use the correct domain here. And then if you have not pushed it live, you'll definitely want in your email, you don't want to have your version test here, but if you are working in test mode, you'll want to add your version test here. And we can see that it's filled in my email because I have that set to this pending user invites email here. And we also see that it's disabled so that I cannot edit it, but I can go ahead and add a password here to join up. So on clicking on join, what we'd expect to see over here, boom, is that this person is, oh, looks like we missed a data type there, but that's pretty small considering everything else. But so now this person has an account. It shows that they've accepted the invite, that they're part of this particular team. And then let's go and let's look in this Joe Demo admin's account that he indeed has this person added so that they get credit in the case of this invite implementation. Okay, and so over here on this, the user invites, the invite bonuses, we can see this email added to that particular one. So that closes it off. Thanks so much for joining this one. If you liked it, give the video a like, subscribe to the channel for more great tips about Bubble.